don't know what the Jug build is right now. One sec. I think your build's fine though. I'm assuming you got the Blink Dagger because you were ahead enough and were doing enough damage that it was more of, am I gonna get on the Skywrath or the Zeus?
Pretty much, yeah, how that game kind of went was like, I kind of just waited for the Void of Chrono and then I blinked on their back line while he was killing my front line.
I got you.
Pretty much every game kind of went like that. Or pretty much the whole game. Couple catch outs. I feel like we almost lost that game. I almost lost us that game, but then I actually kind of saved it. But it was dicey. It was a dicey game.
I got you. Yeah, I'm also kind of thinking Shadowblade might have been good. Like, I see Shadowblade and Blink Dagger kind of like filling the same role but being different branches of it. Where it allows you to get on top of the enemies is basically what the job is. Blink Dagger allows you to like react better with it, whereas Shadowblade allows you to scout out and find people that you don't have vision of. So like the perks of a Shadowblade is you can Shadowblade run into their jungle and possibly pick somebody off, but you can't really just like blink into their jungle and it consistently go well.
Yeah, we were kind of in the backseat that game, so like we were pinned in the base quite a bit. It was pretty hard to like get aggressive on them, but maybe that could have helped that.
So the first thing is you need to fill this a lot more. If you control shift click, you can fill this up to 8 components. So like I'd like to see you also have like your Aquila and Phase queued up in there.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I use that all the time. That shit's so good. And what's really nice about that is if you sort out all the items that you want, like this game, I'd be thinking, mana boots, or you might get mana boots on your team, so Aquila might not be the greatest, but it's still like, you're probably not going to have these guys giving you mana consistently, so Aquila is probably pretty good, but then also they have a lot of heroes that you get stick charges from, so I'd be thinking Aquila's probably decent, and then Wand is most likely going to be really good. So I'd be queuing up probably Aquila, definitely Wand, and like Phase boots. It'll fill more than the 8 components, but and if you sort that out, like right now, like if you're looking at their team, okay, they have a lot of spammy casters. Let's get a Wand for the early mid game, or if the Skywrath's in my lane, I want to get it immediately. If you sort all of that out, you basically figure out what items you want for the first 10 minutes of the game, and what that allows you to do is you have that all sorted out from before the game even starts. So what you can be thinking about then in the back of your mind is, what do I want to go after that? Where a lot of the times that I see, or in my games myself, is if I don't like queue it all up and I just know that I'm gonna get or think that I'm gonna get an Aquila, think I'm gonna get a Phase, think I'm gonna get a Wand, then when it comes 10 minutes and I just finished those items, it's kind of like I haven't been able to at all pay attention to what is the next item. But if you sort it all out right now, you have those 10 minutes where you can just have it in the back of your head. Like, oh, do I want to go Battle Fury? Is the game going well enough that I can get away with that? Do we want the game to go late and all that? Okay, so with this, one of the most common things with Juggernaut is if you M click him it'll force you. It's called a move command, and basically it's the same as right clicking the dude, but you don't auto attack. And the reason that's really good while you're spinning is because it has the computer like move as best as you can on top of the enemy, so they can't get out of your spin. And then the difference between right clicking and M clicking is your hero, while spinning, even though you can't right click this guy, you'll try to right click the guy, which will make you stop. So right here, if you did that instead, you'd be a lot like closer on the guy. Like if he just ran away, because he does have more movement speed than you, he probably would have got out really easily. But if you move command with him doing this like wobble stuff, where
So
he's
like you press M, then right click on him?
yeah, or I think it's M and then left click, or right click, I don't, it's one of the two. It's muscle memory, so I can't like remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're doing this where you're like trying to move in front of him, and then if he jukes like backwards, then you're like, oh shit, I have to react, move my screen down here, and then click, and it's a lot more consistent and a lot easier just to M click the guy. And like here, you get first blood and you don't have your stuff quick buyed, so it's gonna take you extra time to buy out, so you get less block. And now what happens? What happens when you want to get phase boots? You have to open this, go to phase boots wherever they are, add those to your quick buy, and it's just kind of like you could have done all of this before. And it seems like a really small thing, but if you do it consistently, it's actually a pretty big change. And here, do you know how creep aggro works?
Yeah, you can right click on someone, pull the creeps over to you.
Yeah. What I would be doing right here is right clicking to pull these creeps back to this guy. Because what that's gonna do is it's gonna kill your range creep, and then it's also gonna bring it back to a safer spot, and then these melee creeps might follow these guys, or it might go on the range creep, but either way it's like, it's better for you, because it's in a safer spot, so like if this guy tries to like do anything, your towers are like right here, and then they have 3 melee creeps, so it's gonna kill your range creep first, and it'll be easy to deny it. And then depending on what the melee creeps do, if they follow these guys, or if this guy does the same thing and pulls it back here, it's splitting up what is possible for them to do. So like he can't be denying, or he can't be getting last hits on these creeps if they follow him and go to this range creep, while also contesting you for the deny on this. So it just kind of like splits up what he can do. And like right here, you're standing like right here, and if the Skywrath was any good, he'd be focusing on you instead of the lion. But if you're back here, the lion can poke him a lot more freely if he's going in on you here. And then here, you should be, the creep wave shouldn't be pushing here. The lion takes the aggro, and then it defaults onto this range creep. But what you should be doing is right-clicking this guy. Yeah, pull it out here, because what's going to happen here with you not doing it is the creep wave's going to push up. And then this is kind of like what I was talking about before in the opposite, where you can't be last hitting 2 separate groups of creeps at the same time. Like, you want to be getting this last hit, but because they're separated here, you're not able to get all 4. Yeah. And then you end up getting 1 out of the 4 last hits because of it. But if they were grouped together, you could have got like 3 or 4 of them all. And then here, it's another example where the reason you're not going up here is because it doesn't feel safe. But the reason you're right here is because it feels safe. And if you pull the creeps back here by right-clicking the guy, you'll be able to safely last it.
Now, if the range creep ends up dying from my creeps, is that okay? Should I just try to focus on 3 melee?
Which your range creep? This guy
No, so like
or
his
this
3
one?
melee are gonna come to mine, and then mine might go to his. Is it
Yeah.
okay to let their range creep die so I can farm those 3 melee and deny my ranged? Do you think that's a good trade?
Yeah. The range creep's pretty important. It's the most important of the creeps, but like a lot of the times it's like you can't get to that range creep regardless of what you do. Sometimes, like if you go for the range creep, that's the most out of position creep that you can go for. So like you're scared of like getting skewered or getting silenced and nuked and all that to get it anyways. Whereas you can just deny your creep, and it's kind of the same. And then oftentimes they won't deny theirs just because they're not the greatest players, I guess. But yeah, like going up here is kind of like spooky-ish. Like it's not too bad because the Skyrath's out of mana. But if you have 3 melee creeps right here that you're last hitting and you can deny your range creep, it's a lot safer than going up to their range creep and trying to secure the last hit on that sometimes. Also, in this situation, I'd be preferring going phase boots before going Aquila. Because if you look at your mana right now, and you have an entire stick, Aquila, when you look at Aquila, you kind of compare it to phase boots. Like, how I look at boots is, I look at the cost without the price of brown boots. Because you have to get brown boots anyways, like every game on almost every hero. So it's kind of like a non-factor, whereas the Bassi part of the Aquila, Bassi is not a required item that you pick up every game. So Aquila is 965 gold, whereas I think of phase boots as 850, because you have to get the brown boots, but the blades are what makes it a phase boot. So when you look at it like that, the Aquila does less damage for more gold, and then you get the armor and you get the mana regen, which is kind of what makes up for it. But in this situation, you have full mana. The damage you're taking is not based off of right clicks, like, at all. And what phase boots allows you to do is you can a lot better bully people out of lane with the phase active. Yeah. You can dodge them going on you. You can right click for like 5 more damage. You can phase and run people down with your spin and on all that. So it's just kind of like Aquila is not really going to do anything. Like phase boots is just going to do all that Aquila is going to do for you right now, but better. The only thing that you could argue is more mana on your Lion to cast more spells, but he's got a clarity and he's got mana drain, so he should be fine. And like here, so this is this guy using the creep aggro, but he does it wrong. And he lets the creeps fall onto his melee creeps instead of the range creep. I guess these two go on it. And then, yeah, so he ruins it. But what happens here, if you don't counter that with you doing it yourself, this range creep will die, and then your creep wave will have a range creep, and you'll push into them. So he put you into a situation where you had to act to keep the equilibrium, and you didn't act, but he kind of screwed it up. So you can also put the enemies in that situation by doing it on your own range creep, and if they don't also do it, it's kind of like you can pull the creep wave back for free if the enemy isn't good enough to know what's actually happening. And I'd also be trying to probably use some of your mana.
Spin on the guy once in a while.
Yeah, it's mostly because you have a 10 stick charge, so whenever anyone casts spells right now, and this is maxed out, it's kind of like you're losing 15 health and mana. So like right here, I'd be spinning on this guy immediately. Good. Yeah, and now you can use this, and then get full health and full mana, and then let it start recharging again.
Yeah, I got it.
And see here, the creeps went onto his range creep, and you didn't pull it onto yours, so now your creep wave's going to push a little bit.
So pretty much whenever they pull aggro, just counter pull it back, and for the first couple waves, kind of keep pulling it.
It's kind of like you kind of have to be creative with it. I know how to do it, and basically I'm a position 4 player mostly, so like I know when to do it and how to do it, but I don't like. There's a lot of different situations where you do want to do it and you don't want to do it. So I guess it's kind of like you have to be creative with when you do it and when you don't do it. And just like, I guess, get in a few games and play around with it.
Well, if the lane's like safer on my side, like it's probably not worth it.
Yeah.
Like especially if it might go under tower, but like if it's closer to them, I guess, or if I'm feeling unsafe,
Yeah.
I guess yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a really good, I don't feel safe right now because I'm gonna have to be up 200 more units than I am. Like sometimes, right here's perfectly safe, sometimes, like ignoring what the situation actually is right now, sometimes right here is perfectly safe, but right there, you're gonna like get harassed more than you think's worth getting the last hit. And in a situation like that, pulling it back is amazing. And it's just kind of like, when you start doing it, you're gonna start like realizing. I guess it's kind of like harassing, where it's like hard to teach how to correctly harass because it's so much like paying attention to so many small details. Like if somebody's running away, you want to harass them more because turn rates and all of that. So it's just kind of like you have to play around with it a little bit yourself. And you'll figure out like the more minute details of when to do it and when not to do it by making a mistake or two or whatever. And like right here, if you had phase boots instead, the Skywrath would have been dead. The Sven is definitely dead, and then maybe you guys get the Magnus. And it's just kind of like, it's pretty predictable, because if you look at the items like Phase Boots versus Aquila, without mana, Phase Boots is just kind of better.
Yeah, the only reason I just started doing the Aquila first is because the last guy I had coaching said do the Aquila first always. So that's a new switch actually.
Yeah. It's just kind of
like you know, if I'm like really free farming, would you say get the Aquila first? Like that guy is just not even coming up the lane.
Well, no, I would say with Aquila's strengths are its mana regen and its armor, because it gives you, what's it give you? It gives you like 3.5 armor, and then it gives you about 50% more mana regen, but your damage is less than Phase Boots, and your maneuverability is less than Phase Boots. So Aquila is really good for when your armor actually matters in the trade, and you're casting spells.
A void type of person.
Well, it's kind of like it's a mix of both. It's not like, sometimes the mana's like, just having your mana, like let's say you're in a really harass heavy lane, and you have to sit back and use your healing ward all the time, and your Aquila gives you the
Yeah.
mana regen to be able to afford that. And like if you're in a lane where you have to spin and healing ward to stay alive, your Aquila regen might be the difference between you dying or you just surviving and wanding up. So there are situations where Ring of Aquila is better, but I think one thing that a lot of coaches do is they give simplified advice, which is I think very like horrible, or like how do I put it? It gets you to a certain point, but it doesn't get you any farther than that. Like if I tell you to always deny your own range creep, and then you like miss 3 last hits for it, like in that situation it's bad, but always denying your range creep's good advice. It's just kind of like it's too simplified. Whereas always getting Ring of Aquila first is too simplified. And if you get phase boots first too, like you got your boots at like 5 minutes or something. You could also just have got a Bassi and you could have got boots if like boots a lot of the times will allow you to go in, do what you need to do, and get out quicker, which means you get harassed less or you have a lower chance of getting killed. So it's kind of like phase boots, brown boots, Bassi, Aquila, they all have their different perks, and it's kind of like you have to weigh the options based off of how the lane's going, on which you want to like go first. And then there's also the Bassi has a benefit for if it's a completely free farm lane, and you're completely zoning that guy out, and you're just getting tower damage for free, then Bassi's also kind of better. I'd also say, I think Battle Fury would have been good this game. One of the reasons being, regen would have been really nice in your lane if you had a Ring of Regen. Like, the Skywrath's not harassing you nearly as much as he should be. So the ring should be... The ring wouldn't really matter too much this game based off of the Skywrath not playing correctly. But in this lane, the ring would have been really good in a different game with different players. And then when you get the ring, you can get the Void Stone. Did you get him?
No.
Feels bad.
Oh no, I think Viper actually gets him. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you got a haste rune. Nice. But yeah, if you go for the Perseverance, you kind of don't need the Ring of Aquila anymore because it solves your mana problems better than the Aquila, and also because your lane's kind of like, it's kind of like your lane is, they're not going to stop you from farming unless they do enough damage to you that you have to leave, and your Ring of Health would have kept you from ever getting low enough. And then when you get the Perseverance, you have the threat with your Healing Ward and with your Blade Fury, and you're farming well enough that you'll get it at a decent time.
Yeah.
And then because they do have a Magnus and they have a Zeus, pushing high ground is going to be really hard, which usually makes the game go later, and the later the game's going to go, the better the Battle Fury will be. And they also don't have any good tower hitters early, aside from Void, kind of. And he's a good tower hitter when he can mask a Madness and hit the tower, but he's very vulnerable when he does that. So he's like, kind of good tower hitter, kind of meh tower hitter. But it's kind of like, if you look at their draft, it's going to be very hard for the game to end on either side before like 30 minutes, right?
Yeah. Well, I think I remember like my thought this game was I was kind of fearing the Venge done with the silence.
Yeah.
Guy. So I think I was like, I'm gonna try to get an early mid to. But I could see the Battle Fury being good too.
I think it's kind of like with the Battle Fury, you just play around wards so that if they do that, it's like from a smoke ink, which is very rare to have happen, and they can only do it so many times. Like if you get a Battle Fury, and you have like a ward here, and you have this tower down, and you're just farming your jungle, you're not really as scared of that as you would be if you have a Manta style and you're like pushing this tower, right? Because you can Manta dodge it here, the silence and all of that, but or you could just be completely out of the way, and your Battle Fury would put you in a position where you'd be completely out of the way. More so than a Manta style where you're like in the middle of the fight. And they also don't really have, aside from the Void, if he gets a Shadow Blade, they don't really have anybody that invades your jungle really well. Like they don't have any invis or anything to come into your jungle undetected and then set up some shit on you. Like if you're farming right here, their team without the Shadow Blade on the Void is not gonna find you, and they're not gonna do anything to you. Whereas if they have like a Nyx or a Bounty Hunter or a Riki or a Pudge or something that like their whole goal is to like do stuff like that, they don't really have that too much.
This game was almost lost too because everyone was just accusing the Void of scripting for bashes and just kind of just leaving it bad. He's like, guys, shut up. Please.
Is that I don't think that's a thing.
There's a script you can get where you hit and cancel attacks super fast,
yeah.
and they can tell there's gonna be, but like that's so uncommon and like
Yeah.
just not the case. Like our Underlord was just constantly out of position.
Nah, dude, they're just scripting. There's no way that guy's bad.
Yeah, no, it's like, okay. I guess.
But yeah, like right here, I think you have enough gold for the Battle Fury, and this would be a great time to have it too, because what you want to be doing is killing this creep wave, killing this, or killing these, and then like when this pushes up to like here, kill that, and then kill the next wave, and then go back to jungling and kill those. So like, whereas the Yasha, like it's increasing your farm speed, but it's not like doubling it like a Battle Fury would. And then here, maybe if you have the Battle Fury instead, which is kind of like, it's kind of like not fair to say this, but like if you have the Battle Fury here, I think you kill this creep wave and just like leave before they can even do anything to you.
Yeah.
So it feels bad. But this is kind of where I would be looking to go to the off lane instead of the safe lane. We talked about that, right?
Yeah.
Where, like, right here, it's kind of like they didn't actually do anything because you respawn quick and it was only Avenge and Underlord. But, like, they're in a really good spot with you being dead to do stuff to something that matters. Whereas if you died right here, like, what are they going to do off that death? And also, usually, another part of that is usually offlaners get a lot more kill threat on single targets than carries do at around 10 minutes. So if you think of, like, an Axe, if you think about Beastmaster, if you think about LC, they just kind of, like, get a spell that allows them to kill people really well. But if you think about, like, PL, it's kind of like, alright, well, he's just going to have more illusions that hit for, like, 12 damage at that point in the game. Juggernaut gets his ult, but it's like, it's a lot more situational. Like, you can't be next to creep waves, and you're also spinning a lot of the time, so it's harder to cast.
I apologize right there. I was like, oh, I shouldn't have backed. Sorry.
But yeah, I think Battle Fury was definitely the pick up this game. I think by now you would have been really close to your Manta if you went for the Battle Fury at like 14 minutes instead of the Manta. But here I would already have decided that I want to go mid because it's pushed out, and you guys aren't going to be going high ground against these guys. He is Chronosphere 10. This guy's like over here, but if you guys go high ground, he's just going to TP here, and then you guys are going to have to deal with Arc Lightning spam, and you can't break high ground at this point. So what I'd be doing is going mid, killing off this creep wave, killing off the next, push it out to here, and then you have this lane pushed out, and you have this lane pushed out. You guys can look to go top, or place wards to go Roche, or whatever you guys feel is the play there. In there, I think you blink ult this guy. Yeah, you should have blinked and ulted this guy, because then you guys can, you can take this tier 2.
Up until that second, he had Yules, right?
Did he have Yules?
Yeah, Yules are bounty.
I got you. Yeah, I didn't know he had that item. I guess that's fine then.
That was the Shadow Blade reveal. That's when I Viper for the 1000th time says scripting and then GG fast move.
Lol. But yeah, at this point, if you started with the Battle Fury, you would have had the Manta right now, and then would have been working on the Blink Dagger. Your lanes would have been pushed more, you'd have more farm, you'd be a higher level and all that. I think you could have really easily gotten away with the Battle Fury this game. But yeah, is there another game you want to look over? Because I think watching the rest of this isn't going to do too much.
Yeah, it was just kind of a bloodbath after that. Let's see. I'm gonna be honest, I think the Sven game could be good to watch the first few minutes of. Whoa, it's being kind of buggy.
Is it that hour-long one?
The most recent Sven game, the 113.
Yeah. Oh god, techies.
The techies is a little bit tilting for the whole team. Collectively. Pretty sure our Skywrath mage may have been scripting though.
That always helps.
It does, really. When their axe smokes and Blink calls, but before he can get the call off, he's silenced.
Yeah.
In the middle of a PL team fight, it's like, oh.
He just has a really good gaming chair, dude.
Drank all the G Fuel before starting.
Yep. So what I see with this lineup is you guys are heavily countered by BKB. So what I would be looking to do is probably ending the game earlier rather than later. And also with Techies isn't even like a hero until about 15 minutes in the game, kind of. and neither is PL and neither is Rubik. Axe kind of has decent laning, but it's just kind of like most of your team is really good from the start, and their team sucks at the start and only gets better. So what I would be looking to do is probably try to take all their tier 2s by like 20 minutes or something, and then get an Aegis and try and secure a Rax by 25 minutes. And then you can play the game out from there however you feel, because you'll have gold advantage, you'll have map control, you'll be able to like suffocate them, so that even though they do have better late game than you, you'll be progressing faster than them, so it'll even out, and then a lot of the pressure's alleviated if you can accomplish that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think we'll have to kind of see in this replay like what I could have done a little bit differently. I feel like it was kind of like a classic like again this like it was really hard in this bracket is like you want to end early, but just look at the deaths on the supports they just that Jakiro especially just kept walking in the jungle after the Cheki's bombs because he was getting really pissed off about he was we had the Zeus off lane, so everyone was just flaming the Zeus the whole game. That was just like so. For the most part, like I either play with like chat disabled or like mute, but recently I've just been kind of trying to be like a therapeutic-y type, like counselor. I mean, except for the past few losses I had, I was probably deserved all the reports I got for those games. But
play some Zen music or something. Just put that in the background.
No, but like the problem this game with ending early was we were always a man down.
Yeah.
I think one mistake I made was I didn't get the Stormhammer Dispels this game. I got the movement speed. And when I look back on that, like, versus the Pugna, I felt like the Dispel could have been really good.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. And then here again, the quick buy. But of course you can't learn from the lesson proactively. What is it? Reactively? What is the fucking what's the word? They used it for Pudge with his flesh heap stacks. Retroactive, I think is the word. Yeah, retroactive. The best way to block for me, I think you're doing it. You just hold down your mouse button over here and then you spam S and just kind of position yourself in front of the creeps. Is that what you're doing here?
Yeah, what I've been trying to do recently is let one go through right away. And sometimes it just screws up. That was pretty bad. Yeah, I do the stop key. Stop key. Yeah.
And like here's another really good. Yeah. Like you don't care about his auto attacks at all. It's mostly you don't want to get spun on. And another thing to be doing with the pull thing is like this creep, one of these creeps, it's getting low and you're gonna want to last hit it. So what you can do is just attack this guy and pull the creep into your attack range. Because right now you could attack this guy if he was right here, but you mislost it because he's right here instead of right here.
That was bad.
Well, I've been thinking there's a lot of positions where you could have just stunned for, like this here. I was thinking maybe even stunning for where. Wait, where was it? Right here. I was thinking about stunning for that creep right here, because you'll hit him, and then all of the creeps will be hitting him, and you'll get the last hit. But it's kind of like, I guess the reason that that's fine is because you have full mana, and you guys aren't really gonna do anything based off of you having mana in this lane. At least not for a while. Plus you have a mango, so it's kind of like, if you do need mana, you'll have it. And here, instead of pulling the creeps around, you're walking right into him to get these last hits, so you're taking a lot more harass. Seems like a fun lane to go against. I'm so glad I've never had to lane against an Axe Techies.
So bad, dude.
Yeah, and I think the reason this lane is working is just because you're not abusing creep aggro, like, at all. And this axe isn't even, like, this axe... this axe isn't even using his best harass tool. Like, this thing is amazing, and you guys... Fucking techies.
It was the slow motion, like, flying out of nowhere.
Yeah, so what I was trying to say was, this axe isn't even playing the lane correctly, and the reason that, like, he's doing well is, because, like, imagine if he was doing all this shit and then you were also battle hungered whenever it was a bad situation to last hit. Right here, I'd just be TPing home. Oh, you have a salve, never mind. It's still kind of like... And this is also, so usually this amount of, like, winning the lane, when you play the lane properly, it doesn't happen until, like, a few minutes later. And these type of things, depending on what their lineup, is just kind of, like, natural to happen. Yours is just, like, sooner than it should. So this is, like, if this was later in the game, it would be very natural for you to be like, hey, I can't lane up here anymore. Let me go lane against the PL and the Rubik. And then your Zeus would be able to come up here, and he'd be just fine against the Axe, because the Axe isn't going to call the Zeus, like, ever. So you see how, like, the Zeus would be able to get so much more out of this than you would, and then you'd be able to still do a lot bottom.
Yeah, it's just, it's so hard in this bracket to get people to, like, want to work with you.
Yeah. Dota 2. This is some clowny shit. This whole game.
No, this is a cancer bracket, man. I miss being up in the fours where people like are no different, but like they actually are like, you know, I'm not gonna pick shit like techies.
I haven't seen a techies in so long. It's amazing.
It hurts. It hurts.
I do like. Go ahead.
How long have you been playing this?
Well, I played League for a while when I was younger. And I played Dota 1 before that, but I have like 8,000 hours played in Dota 2 on this account, so.
Like, when was like, how long did it take you to like get to where you're at now in like the top 200 players?
I'd say I probably got around this bracket like a year or year and a half ago. But when I calibrated, so when I got into Dota 2, it was basically, I played League for a while. I probably had 1,000 games played, which was probably, however many hours, like 800 or something, a little bit less than that. But I had probably like 200 hours of Dota 1 played before that, and then I went to another game, and then one of my buddies that I made from that game was like, alright, well, we did everything in this game. We gotta wait for content updates. Let's go play Dota. And I was like, sure. So I played like 300 hours with him. I calibrated at just under 4K, and then kind of just slowly went up from there. But yeah, I do like that you're going sustain. Like, I think going treads here would have been a huge mistake, because you're in a situation where you need something that's going to allow you to leave the lane, because the lane is like over. There's like no amount of outplay that you could like reliably do that would get you back in the lane. So just being like, alright, screw it, I'm going to go jungle, is a pretty good decision here.
Yeah, I feel like that was like the majority of that game. After that, it was just memes. But like, it's like that lane was pretty frustrating, just against the axe. But the aggro thing seems like it was kind of the trick for both those last two games we watched.
Yeah, I do think maybe going back for the treads was a mistake, because you do have so much damage and attack speed from Mask of Madness that, like, when you have your Mask of Madness active, you can't even really tell the difference between having treads or not. And usually what's going to happen in fights is you're going to go in, or you're going to ult go in, stun somebody, and then pop a Mask of Madness. So it's kind of like your treads are kind of almost redundant when you have the Mask of Madness. So maybe going straight for the Blink Dagger and then trying to get some, like,
earlier kills.
Yeah. Alongside, like you and the Skywrath can kill anyone if you blink stun someone and then he ults them. And you're kind of delaying that by like 3 minutes by going for the treads first. But yeah, so do you have any questions? I think we're kind of good on this.
It would be nice to. I got pretty much everything you said. I wrote down. So kind of come back tomorrow with a couple games and be like, okay, well, I fixed nothing. I fed. I lost.
Yeah. And then I'm just like, all right, can I have your list so I can just go through it one more time instead of trying to think of more stuff?
Yeah, no. So I think kind of like having this, trying to apply a couple things, and then going back, and I'll try to get a couple more solo games in.
Yeah.
Tonight before tomorrow.